Interesting. Okay. Let's just make sure that this animation player is not just so modulating the sprite as well. Okay. Let's just make sure we reset this sprite modulation as well. Okay, and when we respawn, we're modulating the sprite. Let's just make sure we set the star modulation as well. Okay, cool. Alright. So the star is fixed. Burn damage takes too long. However, when we get hit, when the player gets hit, so the animation player on the player, when we get hit, we're not resetting the burn effect. I think that's probably okay. I'm not too fussed about it. Maybe, I don't know. So on the player, let's have a look. When we burn, it's not a lot we can do easily, I don't think, here. I mean, when we get hit while we're burning, we can just maybe short circuit the hit animation. That's probably easier to do. Hit by missile. So here we can say, if not burning, then play the hit animation. Cool. And here, yeah. And we can say, if dead, return. There's no point in hurting someone who's dead. And in fact, there's no point doing a lot of this stuff, this damage stuff. We don't want to start anything that's not going to finish. I think we can still drive around when we're dead, but we just can't start any like shot or animation because it might interrupt our death animation. Okay, so what was that? Burn damage takes too long. Cool. Now, ready buttons need to be touched and enabled. Wow.
Phase 1. Collect stars and weapons.
Okay, so let's jump into that one. So that is part of our GUI panel code, and it's going to be under our score panel. And here we go. So player 1 color, player 2 color. And I think I've got this somewhere wrong color. I may as well fix this while I'm in here. So I think what we can do is add to our game state. And actually, I think just using the last victor instead of like the current player works here, right? Because I thought, yeah, I think that's better. So when we're ready, we can actually just do game state dot last victor, right? And if it's 0, then it's the player 1's color, otherwise it's player 2. And what does this color actually do? Color rect color. Oh yes, color rect. Right, so that makes sense. So we just set our color. Sweet. Okay, now we need our ready button. So right now, let's just attach a script and we'll call it ready button. And we'll copy some of our controls code from our button here. And in fact, I'm just going to copy all of this stuff into our ready button. And then we'll prune it down from there. So we don't need any of the drag stuff, thank God. We do need the touch index stuff. So we don't need is relevant. We want to accept yes. Okay. All of that can die. So this is code if you're interested in disabling mouse stuff and just working purely with touch. This will help you get buttons working purely with touch. And that's important if you ever want to have buttons pressed at the same time with different fingers. Otherwise, Godot just quite simply doesn't support that. So this code is relevant. So okay, so that can die as well. Sweet. Okay, so that's a pretty simple little thing here. This timer, I guess we can remove it. And what we can say is set scores This is kind of weird. I guess we just have to use our game state as well for this, because otherwise we have to traverse the tree. So var will say score screen readiness equals false false. Okay. and we'll put our public API in here. So we'll just say func set player readiness, and we'll say player number and ready, and here we'll just match. So given my life again, I would have turned these player numbers into enums, especially considering a global game state, but I didn't. So here we'll just say score screen readiness 0 equals ready, and 2 do the same thing, but with the second position in the array. And I think we've got a reset level. So here we can say score screen readiness equals an array of false and false. Cool. So now when we go back into our score panel, when we're ready, I guess we can just say in our game state, we can also do a getter for this stuff. Func get player readiness with the player number, and here we can just return. I'll just do this. Okay, so let's jump back here and say on ready. We can say we want a reference to our button. So let's on ready var our button, and that's going to be equal to our center container vbox container button. And we can say our button dot pressed is equal to our game state dot get. What do we call it? Get player readiness for our current player number. And what we can say is I think this should be 1. Okay, and then we can say button dot connect, and we want to connect to our what was it? Button down and button up. So we say button on our button down, we'll run ourself on button down and do the same thing on button up. Okay. Func, we'll say on button down. We will say game state dot set player readiness for our current player number. Current player number to true, and the exact same thing will happen when we put our button up, but it'll set it to false. Okay, and we can get rid of this timer timeout because we're no longer doing it this way. And